Kim and Shawn, thank you so much for joining me. I am excited to have this conversation with the two of you about outdoor activities and how important those things are for our students and really for us as well. Kim, you're bringing years of coaching experience. We're talking basketball, volleyball, soccer. You were a competitive gymnast for a lot of years. You were a PE teacher for years and years, and currently teach, what are you teaching now? I forget.
So I teach 5th grade at Liberty Academy, but I taught PE here for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
So a whole decade. I've been here 16 years, but 10 of them were all spent in physical education.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shawn, you're bringing years as a personal trainer, as a coach. You're coaching our flag football team. What else do you got going on in the fitness world
Fitness world, again, you mentioned personal training, but I also do some sports-specific training, speed and agility training for high school athletes that are looking to move on to college and things of that nature. So it's a lot of fun. Keeps me busy.
I mean, the two of you have seen a ton of results of physical activity outside and how many benefits there are to our students when that happens correctly. Kim, can you tell me just kind of in a few minutes, what have you seen as the problems that are happening today with students in regard to outdoor activity?
So the biggest thing I'm seeing in a classroom is, in general, an overall laziness, a learned helplessness, where when I started 16 years ago, I had a lot more kids who were outdoors and played on team sports. And you could tell in the classroom, they knew hard work, they knew discipline, they could figure out problems, they could collaborate. You could throw games at them and they would adapt and they would play them. They'd figure out, who's in charge, who's not in charge, and they were able to negotiate and collaborate. And now I feel like I have a handful of kids who still do sports and are still outside, but I have to cater my teaching because the majority of them have this apathetic attitude where they don't show as much grit, they don't show as much perseverance, they give up really, really easy the second it's hard. And again, this isn't all of them, but I can see very clearly who plays sports without even asking.
Interesting.
And who doesn't. And I always throw in a Kahoot game or a Jeopardy game right at the beginning of the year, normally first week of school. You can tell the kids who have made it to 5th grade without playing a game. They don't know how to be thankful for their opponent. They really have a hard time losing. It's very mind-blowing to them to lose at something. And I'm always amazed. I'm like, you're 10 years old and you've never lost, any game or any sort of activity with friends. You can also tell in teamwork. So for me, what I see the most in the classroom, I would just sum it up as the overall learned helplessness. How do I do this? How do I do this? If you're not hand-holding them, they don't know what to do. And a lot of that comes from not being creative outside and just figuring it out. Not having a coach to instill these life lessons in them. But there's a lot of lessons I truly believe that you learn from being outside and being with friends and playing. I mean, you learn a lot about life. And I feel that they don't have that near as much as the kids did 16 years ago when I started teaching.
Wow, that's a lot of insight. I actually wasn't expecting that level of you just being able to tell right off the bat which students have played on a team sport and which two students are playing outside versus the other ones.
Wow.
And it makes me wonder if the last, let's say 5 years, the last 5 years we've seen two things kind of happen that could be related to this. And one of them is the prevalence of social media and devices in little kids. And the other is in the last 4 or 5 years, we've had these lockdowns where kids and adults and people have gotten more used to just being shut up at home. Would a 5-year span be about the timeline you've seen this kind of, I'd say it's a curve and it kind of escalated, like it kind of had a curve, like it was maybe going like this and then all of a sudden there was a spike. That's kind of what I saw. Is that what you're seeing?
It's exactly what I see, and I think that the lockdown is a really good point because I feel like this is on the kids to get outside, but first and foremost, it's on the parents to give them the freedom to go outside and give them the freedom to just go play. And because we were told to be indoors and isolate and not play with the neighborhood families, a lot of kids grew up with that mindset. So it's shifting the mindset that go knock on the neighbor's door, go play with the neighbors. It's okay. And I feel that that freedom needs to come from the parents also. It's okay to go do this stuff. It was taken away for a while, and just like anything, bringing it back will be a little uncomfortable. Okay, go knock on their door and start a game with them. Just walk around the block, bring one ball outside and figure out a couple games to play with that one ball. But it's kind of a forgotten joy to play outside and be outside. And I really think that if parents kind of don't snowplow and, go in front of their kids and stop them, and go in front of their kids and stop them, if they just let them play, the results are going to be great.
Awesome. Shawn, what are you seeing? What do you see in the same kind of context?
Kim brought up great points there. From my perspective, what I'm seeing a lot of is an obsession with electronics. And what I mean by that is there's, unfortunately, video game creators, social media apps, they are intentionally creating an addiction. They're creating these things to where it draws our athletes, it draws our kids, it draws our students to these devices.
They're spending billions of dollars in psychological research and human behavior research to make things addicting, to make things gradually harder to earn the reward, and then your brain's releasing dopamine. I mean, we've talked in a lot of detail on this in our social media deal, where effectively the social media platforms have learned how to hook you in and then release dopamine on a timed schedule, very similar to doing drugs, very similar to drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, and all these other dirty, gross things that people could get into. Social media and phones are doing the same to our kids, and they're keeping them inside or stagnant, staring at a phone.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And as Kim mentioned, there's the team sports aspect and the games, they're there, but these kids are so inundated and so addicted to the electronics and the obsession of it that they can play outside and see people doing things, but they'd rather do this. So that's what I'm kind of seeing, just more of a kind of an obsession, because the things are on their phones are marketed towards them to use. So I'm seeing quite a bit of that and having to differentiate between.
One thing to piggyback off of, I phoned a friend. I phoned both my parents before doing this because I figured they had front row view of my childhood.
Right.
And my dad's an optometrist, and he was saying the myopia and nearsightedness and the significant rise in nearsightedness, because most kids, their life ends right here. They're staring at a screen here.
Right.
The furthest they're maybe looking is 20 feet to the front of the room.
Absolutely.
But they're never just getting outside and looking past the horizon. They're never looking up at the stars. And their whole life is here, and it's significantly affecting their eyesight. And he's never seen anything like this in the last 10 years. And he's been an optometrist since 1985.
Right.
And he says his entire practice, all his laser surgeries, getting younger and younger just because of their eyesight, because their life is here. They don't look past it.
Right. I mean, I've ridden dirt bikes and played soccer and done all kinds of stuff, and the reason I say that is because I've hit my head a few times. I've had a couple of concussions. Because of that, I've studied concussion and concussion recovery in detail, because I'm kind of curious, like, okay, what's going to be happening to me when I get older? One of the things I found is directly related to eyesight and near and far vision. One of the things that can actually repair the brain and help your brain go back into neuroplasticity as an older and older age, which basically means your brain is fixing and is creating new neuroptic connections, is close and far vision. Is focusing here and then focusing there, and then focusing here and then focusing there at a fast pace. So the ability to change your focal point very quickly actually helps your brain recover from things like concussions. And so the importance of that, kind of the extrapolation from those studies are, if we are looking at something this close to us for hours at a time, or even sitting in our house and looking at a TV that's this close, and that's your only focal point, and you're never looking beyond the horizon, like you said, we're actually decreasing the cognitive performance of kids. To say it simply, we are decreasing their ability to think, making kids less smart, or as I said in another conversation, dumber. Which might sound offensive, but that's the truth. We need to get kids outside. A kid's ability to say, ride a bike, play football, play a team sport, run, all of those things force your brain or force your eyes to focus here and then focus far. I'm running and I'm focusing on what's coming at me, like, oh, jump over that curb. Okay, I'm looking back out there. You're riding a bicycle, things are coming at you kind of fast. Like when I'm riding my mountain bike going downhill, you're changing focus real fast.
It's your reflexes, your hand-eye coordination.
You're playing football, you're playing soccer, you're focusing on the ball here, you're focusing on the ball down there, you're focusing on where you're going. I mean,
using a little
I
bit of
focus. I'm sorry, you got me on a tangent, because that's it's a really neat study. These studies of eye focus and the speed at which your brain needs to be able to change its focus to stay healthy is really important, and you cannot cannot do that inside, and you cannot do that while you're staring at a screen.
Absolutely.
So sorry to take up so much
thank
time.
you for sharing that.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. And I notice it in my classroom too. I notice the kids who need everything right here.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm at the front of the room or I'm to the corner, they're not used to like fixing their gaze. They're not used to tracking. We always say track the teacher. It's like
Right.
going up to bat in baseball. You have to track the ball out of the pitcher's hand. If your eyes are closed, you just open them. It's like you've got no shot at hitting it. You track the ball the whole way.
Right.
Football as well.
Yeah, and so when you're learning, you're tracking the teacher. Where's the teacher at? And you're looking. But a lot of them, it's a new concept to them. They're not used to doing that.
Cool. Any last closing effects on this say, first portion of our conversation? What are some more bad things that are happening because kids are not outside?
Well, simply put, coming from a fitness standpoint, and I work with older adults that have had some have gotten into kind of some bad routines and some bad habits.
Okay.
And just lack of physical activity is it seems very like a simple one to reach for, but that's simply put, there's just not enough physical activity happen because of the dependent on other devices and just other things. So I'm starting to see, when I work with older adults, I'm just seeing a lot more health challenges that may have come later in life, but they're already kind of hitting them.
Like lack of mobility, lack of strength.
Lack of strength, lack of mobility. You're dealing with heart issues and things of that nature at somewhat of an early age. So
A lot of high blood pressure. That's been a huge
a lot of
one.
those things. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. So
And that's just
scary.
the physical health, not even the psychiatric
Not
health
even
side
the
of
mental
it.
side of things.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's another aspect
whole
of
other
it.
ballgame.
Just like, we've had conversations about social media and screens, nutrition, outdoor activity, circadian rhythms, and sleep. All of these things are tied together so closely, and a mess up or a misbalance in any of them increases anxiety, depression, and the likelihood that someone might commit suicide or have suicidal ideations.
100%.
And this is one of those aspects. If you're not outside, you're staring at a screen all day, you're looking at how happy everybody else is on their social media, and the reality is no one's happy on social media. It's all a lie, but that's what it looks like, and you're just sitting at home being sad. Like that increases anxiety, increases depression. Put down the phone, go outside, run a lap. You know, I mean, that
Break a
is
sweat.
absolutely. So physical health is huge. Core strength is huge. Which core strength is like your strength of your abdomen and your ability to sit up straight and
Move around.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, one of the primary indicators of like longevity in life, or one of the most important parts of being able to have a long, successful, healthy life, right? Like, a lot of times we'll see someone fall down when they get older, and then their health will start to decrease from there because they'll fall down, you break a bone, and then there's less mobility. One of the things that I've read that is one of the most important things to have that is strong in your body, hand strength.
Hand strength.
Because if you think about it, we walk around and we hold things, and that's how we stay balanced. So if we are not outside and we're holding a phone all day, our hands have nothing to, and nothing to, you're not throwing a football, you're not doing handstands, you're not, playing, you're not riding a bicycle, and your hands just get weaker and weaker. If you're, let's say, 50, 60, 70, and you go to fall and you go to grab something, but your hand is not strong enough and you slip, then you fall. So hand strength is one of the things.
What's that cliche
is super
saying?
important.
What's the saying? Use it or lose it?
Yeah, 100%.
We gotta get moving and use our bodies.
When as a
what they're
trainer,
done for.
just the feel-good part of working out too, the serotonin,
There
the
you go.
dopamines that
Yep.
you release.
Brings balance.
It's a challenge right now with 4 kids of when I do my personal fitness, and I've switched it to the mornings. So I do 5 a.m. in the mornings and trying to figure out how to do it. So I just do it in the treadmill in my garage. And I will tell you, the days I do it, it's so night and day
feel
difference.
better
And
the rest of the day.
and every time I'm tempted to sleep in, it's like, no, because I know the difference. It changes my whole day.
Whole day.
And it seems like harder. It's like, well, I'm losing sleep, I'm getting up earlier.
Yeah.
But there's nothing better.
Thank
Really
you.
quickly before we move on, so let's compare that. So the dopamine release from doing something healthy, right? We've talked
Yes.
about this before. Going on a run is much harder to get yourself out of bed. You're tired. Go on a run. It takes maybe 45 minutes to get the whole process done, and you practice and you feel great. Versus, I don't want to get up, grab the phone, stare at the phone, flip through. You get a little dopamine release, put the phone down. Dopamine's gone.
It's gone.
You feel like garbage the rest of the day.
The rest of the day.
And
Right
you
after
don't
effective.
feel pleased with yourself because you've let down your discipline.
Yeah,
You have
right.
no accountability, so you already are going to the day thinking, man, I already messed up. I didn't do it. And when I do it in the morning, I'm already like, okay, I checked something off my to-do list.
Right.
I feel accomplished.
better.
And I feel accountable to myself that I was disciplined enough, no coach watching me, not doing it for a grade, just
Right.
doing it for me, that I was disciplined enough to get up and do it. And it just starts your day
Start your day right way.
the best.
Okay, so what are the positive effects of getting outside and playing on a team, going on a run, doing something active?
I think we have a unique benefit here living in San Diego and being in East County. We have access to the sun a lot more than a lot of other areas in the world. So I think just the benefit of getting sunlight to our bodies, which helps our bodies, helps our brains. I think that's kind of the number one.
Vitamin E, right?
Vitamin E, that's perfect. I mean, we need that, and it has that. When we sweat, we get that effect. So I'll start there. From
antioxidant. I mean, we're always, how much on the news are we talking about antioxidant this, antioxidant that? Go on a run.
That's free.
Sweat. It gets stuff out of your body.
Absolutely.
That's unhealthy.
Yeah.
What else? What are some good effects of getting outside, physical exertion? You talked about some with team sports. I mean,
I feel like for me, it's just the social side of how it makes you feel too, the independence, the responsibility, going and being part of a team, learning that you have to be selfless and you need to work as a team player and you need to set goals, and so much that goes into it. To me, it's so many life lessons that are learned from being outside.
Right.
Huge.
Awesome.
Huge. Talk about it all the time.
Right.
Every day with our team. That's I always say our team is kind of a character development program, kind of masked as a football team. So that's our focus.
Right.
With team sports, it is character. It is building relationships. It is working on getting better. It is being cooperative and competitive at the same time. But also, Kim, you mentioned earlier about getting up early and working out in the morning. I do that as well. I try to. I go about 20 minutes. It's kind of
That's all I
need. I try to get in and get nice, but starting the consistency. But also on the back end, when I'm able to get home, to have a good night's sleep and prepare for the next day. Rest it just seems to be to work a lot better that way. And it's not a guarantee, but it does give you an opportunity to eventually at the end of the night, if you're outside and you're moving, to get rest and to be able to be prepared for the next day academically or physically or whatever that is.
Sleep is such an important aspect. And my brother does this thing. I've been over to his house before. He's got 4 kids, and like he'll be at home. They have a pool. They're stoked to have a pool. But what he's learned is that with his 4 kids, they don't sleep well unless they have just been run ragged before bedtime. So they'll go out and jump in the pool, and all the kids will be in a pool. My brother will jump in there and just dive bomb everybody and like just wrestle and just get them all going. And by 7:30, they're gassed. They sleep amazing, and they wake up the next morning ready for school, ready to rock. And then you do it again. So I mean, this idea of activity directly affects your sleep, which directly affects your cognitive performance, which directly reflects your memory. And if we are not getting a full, let's say 4 hours at least, usually you need 2 4-hour cycles, an adult, and kids sometimes need more than that. A 4-hour cycle gets you all the way through like REM sleep and all the way back to REM sleep, basically. Absolutely. And that's what your brain takes short-term memories and puts them into long-term memories. If we're not getting outside and exercising, and if we're not healthy when we go to bed, we're not going to sleep right. One of the other kind of side effects of being outside is that you're seeing the sun. There's receptors in your brain, or in your eyes, that set your circadian rhythms. And we'll have a conversation about circadian rhythms and the importance of that. But being outside automatically sets your circadian rhythm because your brain literally knows when the sun rises and sets, and it knows when it's time to go to bed. That's why there's so much studies on the people who have night shifts really struggling because it's really hard on people like that.
Really good point.
Any other kind of summary ideas of? I mean, there are so many positive effects of getting outside and exercising and being on sports teams. What else do you guys have to add? Kim, go for it.
I think the biggest thing is I think back to my childhood and just think the amount that you learn from being out there, how to negotiate, how to take calculated risks. I remember half the time we were playing outside, we didn't really know what we were doing. There was a lot of failures. My brother would have this great idea to build bike ramps, and we would do all these crazy things, and we learned so much through it. And I kind of look back now and thinking, man, I wish I had a Fitbit or a Nike watch back then, because the amount of exercise we were getting through this, we were never like, we're gonna go exercise. We were never doing it for exercise, but vicariously, the exercise is right there with it. So we were just playing. We were having fun. We were doing all the things, but we were getting so much exercise from it. We were sleeping well, which meant we were eating better. And we were overall really happy kids. And our friends, our neighborhood, the kids were happier.
Like you're making friends. You're learning how to negotiate disagreements because you're playing in a sport and you didn't score, I didn't score.
Who's picked first? Who's picked last? Who's in charge of picking? Just deciding captains was a whole life lesson.
You're getting your sleep circadian situation handled. Your body's digesting the food that you're eating correctly because you're exercise. I mean, It really, parents, just put your kids outside.
Yeah.
Let the rest figure itself out, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
just take
almost
it
where it's at.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
So anything else to add, Shawn?
I mean, just you guys hit the nail on the head with that. I think for me, in my personal experience, just remembering being challenged and kind of seeing where I am in the hierarchy of just my friends and us going around. And I had friends that challenged me, friends that, you know, were doing great things. And to see them doing those things, it made me want to aspire to be like them as well. So without being outside and without having those relationships, you kind of don't have much to go off at. And it was great because I was able to see that tangibly in front of me. It wasn't like I was watching on the screen. I was able to see, I mean, this guy is amazing. He's doing great things. He's just a well-rounded individual. I want to be like him. And I can see him, I can talk to him, I can ask him questions.
And would you agree that it made you a lot more mature?
Absolutely.
Because that's what I also am seeing in a classroom of fifth graders. There's such more immaturity. They don't know how to handle these things. They don't know how to take on, you know, problems or adversities because their parents have held their hand or kept them inside or not let them do it. And sometimes just throwing a group of kids out there and with one ball, be creative, figure it out. And just the maturity you learn from playing with the street kids, playing in the neighborhood.
One of the things you said made me think. So if you're looking at a screen, if you're inside and you're not playing with other kids, you're in a very narcissistic situation. The world revolves around me, my likes, my dislikes, my videos. Literally the algorithm that these phones make, like cater what's being shown to the person watching it. It's very narcissistic. You think you're amazing, right? It's very easy to convince yourself you're amazing when you're playing video games and looking at a screen. You get outside and start playing sports with your friends, and you find a role model. That kid down the street, oh my gosh, he jumped the gap that was huge. He can jump that bike way better than me, or whatever. And all of a sudden you're humbled a little bit, but there's an importance to that. Because how can we ever, as human beings, continue to grow if we do not know that we need to grow? If we do not know that there's a place to go that's above where we're currently at, how do we grow? And if we are telling our kids that they're the center of the universe and that they're perfect, why would they ever think that they need to practice, get better, try harder, have grit and push through something? All of those pieces are falling apart because we're letting our kids just kind of stay inside.
There's no mental toughness anymore.
Like
they just mentally, they give up the second it's hard. They want to give up. They don't know how to persevere through it. They just overall have a laziness and a learned helplessness and this really weak mindset. It's all mindset. It's mind over matter. They don't know how to think like that.
You know, studies have shown with counseling and therapy, and so this is recent studies about counseling and therapy and helping people through anxiety and depression and things like that. And one of the studies that I'm paying a lot of attention to is showing that learning grit is actually more important than things like, oh, are you okay, Johnny? You okay? Oh, are you okay? You know, we think that therapy is, you know, you go to a therapist and they're telling you everything's okay and making you feel good. And actually what some of these studies are showing is that the best therapy is having a kid be gradually exposed to hardships so that they can learn that they can overcome hardships. Absolutely. You know, I mean, and this is a little bit groundbreaking in this day and age because the consensus about these kind of things is that you go in front of your kid and you prepare the way for them. Well, at some point, you can't prepare the way for the kid anymore, and the kid has to start, you know, being prepared for the road. You know, like, what's the statement? We don't prepare the road for the kid. You got to prepare the kid for the road. You know, unless we're actually going to literally change the world today independently by myself, then my kid will not be prepared for the world unless I let her kind of go through some hardships. Controlled hardships, right? Not just throw her into the deep end and say swim, but throw her into the shallow end with some floaties for a day, and then throw her in without floaties, and then stand next to her and be like, you can swim, you can do it.
And knowing it's going to be hard. As a mom, it is hard to see your kids struggle. Watching my kids learn to swim, I'm just like, oh, this is so much crying, but they need to learn it, and their swim coach is in charge. And seeing my daughter get, you know, disciplined by a coach at softball, or have to rethrow her gymnastics routines a million times because one little thing wasn't perfect, you want to step in and just be like, save them. But when you don't is when they grow. And I see in a classroom, because no parents attend school with their kids, you can tell the kids who are used to just mommy or daddy, like right here, and without them, they don't know how to think on their own. They don't know how to have sportsmanship, how to have a good attitude, how to control their emotions. There's a lot of, if parents would give a little bit more freedom, the kids would really start thinking on their own, and it would change a lot.
Awesome. So let's shift gears to the reality, right? And the reality is that getting to this point, getting from the kids that we're talking about, the lifestyle that is kind of common in the United States to the lifestyle that is healthy, it's not easy. And we need to recognize that. I mean, there are all kinds of different life situations that make this really hard. California is where we live. It's really hard to live here. It's expensive. And often parents are having to work 2 jobs, or both parents are having to work. Many of the teachers that I work with, that we're working with, are working multiple jobs, get home late, their spouse has to work, and it's even hard for us. Like for me, it's hard for us to function. It's hard for me to be present for my daughter and to make sure she's getting outside. It's not an easy thing. And so as we're having this conversation, I mean, I know you both well enough to know that this is a very deliberate thing, and it's not an easy thing to do with our own kids. Being a teacher takes forever. You're here late hours. I've seen you here with your kids, right?
All the
I mean,
time.
you're here late. I've seen you late. You're a coach. Like, you have to find time for your own kids, right? And so with that bracket, with a little bit of humility and saying that what we are saying is we're speaking to ourselves as well, right? I mean, we're not out there wagging the finger at anybody.
Thank you for saying that. It's true. It's true.
How do we get from stagnation to outside? Any ideas, Shawn?
First thing comes to mind to me, and I'm probably kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but keeping things very simple.
That's not jumping ahead.
Yeah, keeping stuff very simple and being very intentional about what we're doing. And for example, intertwining activity with our day in and day out processes, so it doesn't feel like another added thing to the table. I think anytime we introduce a new concept to someone and adding something to their plate, it scares us, right?
Replace something else.
Yeah.
If you're going to put something new in, take something out, right?
And make room for that. And then also on the lines of using just normal family structure. I mean, for example, I think we talked about earlier, cooking dinner. Maybe if dinner's going to be in the stove for an hour, that might be a great opportunity to take the family out for a walk, or to take the dog for a walk and do things of that nature. So just finding opportunities in your normal day and normal processes to move around. So I mentioned walking would kind of be my first kind of step in regards to just getting the body moving and getting back
step
outdoors.
one. Let's say you don't live right next to a park, and let's say it's not actually safe to just say, hey, go to the next door neighbors and knock on the door. Let's say that's not a safe thing. Cool, go on a walk. Or you could jump in a car, drive 5 minutes to a really safe park. Like there's a lot of safe parks within 10, 15 miles, a lot of safe parks, 15 miles is a long place, but within 5 miles of anywhere in East County, which is where we live, and I would assume anywhere in California. You can get in a car and drive 5-10 minutes to find a safe outdoor place to just run around.
Just move around. But I do like the idea, and if you can find a neighbor and get it, or just get as many people with you as possible, because now your activity is going up, and now you're talking. Now you're kind of like helping each other out. You're bonding with that group of individuals, and you get an opportunity to develop social skills and have conversations without a device, without a screen. So I think for me that would be a good place to start.
Awesome. Any thoughts, Kim?
Same thing. I think keep it simple. Life is busy and the days go really fast. I think my golden thing I always tell my kids is, can we take this outside? And I always just say, can we take this outside? So anything we're doing, if we're reading for 20 minutes, if we're
Sorry,
studying,
I know your kids.
I know. Can we take this outside? My kids are outdoor kiddos, but mainly because of this. Can we take this outside? Dinner can be ate outside on the grass, picnic style. And you're still eating dinner. You're not encroaching on any other time of the day. But just, can we take it outside? And whatever it is that we're doing, my son right now is in kindergarten, so he has his sight word of the week in his letter. And it's homework packet after homework packet. But can we take it outside? So he'll take his sidewalk chalk and he'll write his sight word, with his sidewalk chalk. It's just being outdoors. You don't need to go from 0 to 100. You don't need to go all-star sports, travel ball.
Correct.
You don't need to add to it, but just rearranging your life of more outdoor than indoor. Not everything needs to be done with a roof on your head and walls. Most of us spend a huge majority of our life inside. So whatever you can, just take it outside. And you'll realize you can do, my neighbors probably think we're a little loony because we do almost everything on our front yard, And then vicariously they start finding bugs and they start finding this and they start just playing outside because they're outdoors and they become creative. But that's number one, just keep it simple. And like you're saying, living in San Diego, it doesn't cost money to go outside and be active. There's a million different trails to hike.
Even if you're living in an apartment, there's so many. We've all lived in apartments, right? And there's a balcony, and almost every apartment has at least a balcony. Hey, can we take it outside?
Just take it outside.
Get some sun. Just get outside, get some sun while you're doing it. We're doing a worksheet. Let's do it on the balcony.
I'm thinking board games too. You think
Absolutely.
board games
Yeah.
outside, right? Take
I mean, it
fun.
rains
It's
a
huge.
whopping like 10 days here. You can pretty much take anything outside any day.
What about entry level sports, right? Like, so a lot of times, team sports cost a little bit of money. AYSO soccer, we've got all kinds of different sports. They don't cost a ton of money. And if you look at the things that most of us spend money on, if we're spending money on coffee drinks, and we're spending money on phones, and we're spending money on a lot of stuff that if we needed to cut some things out to afford a little bit of money for our students, to go to play soccer or play football or something, or go to AYSO, that can happen.
What I was going to say for parents, it might seem stressful or another thing added to your plate to, take on sports. It doesn't need to be this huge thing, and you will find a sigh of relief doing it. There's a nice moment of pause when you take your kids to sports practice.
Yeah.
Let someone else take over for an hour or two. Let someone else coach them. Let someone else pour into their life.
Absolutely.
It's a different voice. And then it does give you that mental health hour to just yourself. So it seems burdensome to, we have practice at 4 o'clock, practice at 5 o'clock. But once you get in a routine and a structure, the mental health of your kids is greatly benefited. And then you as a parent, you can let this coach pour into them and then this teacher pour into them, and they become such a well-rounded child.
Yeah, and let's
because
be
of it.
honest, when we drop your kids off at soccer or whatever,
Yeah.
what's more relaxing than just sitting there and watching
the best.
kids kind of run around and play soccer? You are also outside. I know that I'll come out, bring a lawn chair, and just sit there and kind of hang out and watch my kid play soccer. It's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
balance, yeah.
So where would a parent go if they were looking to get their kids involved in sports? So I know AYSO is easy. Just look up AYSO if you're looking
Yeah.
for soccer. What if we're looking for
Soccer.
football or baseball, or what if we're looking for those things?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that too. I was doing a little bit of research, and I actually, I'm a product of this type of system and environment, which I'm happy to share. But Parks and Recs are locally, they are available. They have tons of programs recreationally, therapeutic. They have cooking. They have just so many different programs. So I know here locally in El Cajon Parks and Rec system has an online website, has each year a publication, or each kind of season has a publication that goes out and talks about different activities, and they offer team sports at a more of a manageable type sense, where it might be a practice a Monday and a Wednesday versus I know some of the team sports are a little bit more into it, like every day and things of that nature. But
no, we're just looking at entry level stuff. So El Cajon Parks and Rec.
Parks and
so if
Recs.
you look up El Cajon Parks and Rec, and really any city across
Yes.
California.
Absolutely.
If you're
And
looking
we pass
for,
that out to all Literacy First students. They get the brochure of the City of Rec each year. And they do it seasonally. So they have like a winter program, a fall program, a spring program. The summer one's amazing, especially for working
My kids
families.
have done it,
But you can do things from skate park to football leagues
Got
to
it.
ballet to gymnastics.
Very well-rounded.
It's a whole
And-
gamut
Awesome.
of sports.
And can I say, when we're talking about accessibility, there's programs, financial assistance for certain families that may have some challenges financially too. So
Are those accessible through El Cajon Parks and Rec?
through El Cajon Parks and Rec, and through the website as well. There's an
There's-
online application and a
Awesome.
process
Okay.
as well. So I'm kind of a product of that. My kids have gone through the system
Heck yeah.
through Parks and Rec, so I'm a big advocate for those.
Cool. I think I've been to, there's the Boys and Girls Clubs that are local, and we used to play soccer at the Boys and Girls Clubs, and then we would go inside and play shuffleboard and ping pong and whatever, because they had those things going on. I mean, those programs are very helpful in, kind of in the cities. One other thing that I wanted to jump and talk about specifically, because it's close to my heart, is riding bicycles. I mean, riding bicycles, there is a great breadth of research behind the value of the 3 core aspects of riding bikes. One of them is balance activities. So when you're balancing on a bike, or let's say a skateboard, or just balancing in general, one foot, you get a little balance board. I stand on one when I work in my office, a little round disc with a little thing in the middle, you stand on it. What balancing is doing is it's getting your brain to go across hemispheres, right? You're going right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain. So there's cognitive benefits to that. The other part of riding a bicycle is that you're pedaling, you're physically exerting, right? So it's physical exercise. Also, you are in a position where it's in a little bit of risk all the time. And so if you fall down, if you stop riding a bike and stop balancing, you're going to fall down, you're going to get hurt. So what it does is it's forcing your brain to get rid of every other thing that is in there, and it forces you to kind of do this one thing. And there's an article that was written called, I think it's called "Cycling is My Ritalin," and it's a story about a kid who had ADHD and he was on all kinds of meds in high school, and he didn't want to take meds anymore, decided to cycle and do that before school every day. And he ended up going, I think he ended up going professional, and he was riding like
So
road
cool.
bikes, right?
Wow.
But it effectively changed his life. He succeeded in school because he was riding bicycles. And it helped him to not have to take medications anymore. And there's studies after studies after studies that are showing that balance activities and activities that have a little bit of risk and that are physically exerting are actually helping kids and people who might seem like they have ADHD not ever get diagnosed with
Because they
ADHD.
found their outlet.
Right. Well, I mean, so for
found
me,
it.
the
That's
reason why I
awesome.
went down that road is because I would have been diagnosed ADHD if I'd have gone to a normal school.
Yeah.
I was homeschooled, and so I didn't need to sit down in a classroom. I was sent outside to run and play in the middle of the day and whatever. However, riding bicycles, for some reason, just focused my brain, and I could focus for hours afterwards. And so I started studying it. Once I became a psychologist, like, why is this? And there's actual studies behind it. So if a family has the means to be able to get a hold of some bicycles,
I agree.
just put your kids on bikes.
I agree.
It's not only getting them outside, it's also doing these other things that are super healthy. Bicycles are so important,
good.
and I cannot tell you how many times we've had students that have had behavior problems in school, and it's been referred to my desk for special education support, that we ask the parents, have they ever ridden a bike? And the parents say, no, they've never touched a bicycle.
Wow.
And then once they learn how to ride a bicycle, they won't put it down. And all of a sudden, that's their thing. And that's
Yep.
part of the toolkit, not the whole toolkit, but part of the toolkit that will help
huge
that
part.
kid function in school. And then there's similar stories to kids that have gone to play football and soccer. And I mean, I know that you guys have stories. So to close this
I know,
out,
right?
to close this out, I would like to hear from each of you a
Yes.
real life story without names of a student that you've seen come to your team and totally change who they are because they were outside playing sports.
I have a couple of I want to stay on the bikes for a second.
Okay.
Cycling. That was just
I
for a
got
quick
something to say
second.
about cycling.
Just things are coming to my brain, but the idea of just learning a skill
Yeah.
and struggling with it a little bit and then
Yes.
figuring it out, it just brings such a
Accomplishment.
sense of accomplishment and confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. But also along those lines of, I remember in my childhood having a bicycle and being able to get out and remove myself from my circle of the neighborhood and being able to get out and see different things in different neighborhoods and different people and interact with different people. I think I wrote in my notes here, it's that biking or cycling is just such a full sensory experience.
Yes.
When you're able to
Yes.
get on a bike and move around a little
And
bit.
it gives
So-
you access to freedom. I think that's what
Yeah.
you're saying.
There you
Like,
go. That's
Well,
it.
that
That's
was-
it.
You can
Absolutely.
go
Yeah.
farther than you can go on your feet.
Well, one thing that I was thinking about too is just the independence of a bike and also the
Independence.
responsibility. I
Yeah.
was lucky because I was the baby of the family, so I never had to be that responsible. But I remember my parents telling my brother, like, you're responsible for her. You're responsible for her crossing the street. You're responsible for her making it home. So it gave us these just little kids running around the neighborhood. We were independent. We were crossing a street by ourselves. We had to learn how.
Yeah.
And then he had to
Right.
learn that he was responsible for me. He was taking care of me. He was thinking about someone else besides himself. I want to touch on the cycling though, just for a
Okay.
minute. Gross motor skills.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I will tell you, we have gross motor skills on our kindergarten report card.
Yes.
Because fine motor in a classroom is one part of the brain. Your gross motor is completely different.
Yep.
And teach.
So to pause real quick,
Yes.
gross motor is like
Yes.
large movements. Fine motor is drawing.
Yep.
So gross motor is balance, riding a bicycle, running. Fine motor is drawing a picture or writing, cursive handwriting. So keep going.
So we have enough concern for it. We put it on a report card. Can they jump? Can they skip? Can they tie their shoes?
Right.
Can they stand on one leg? And these gross motor skills, I've had kids come to me in 7th and 8th grade and they can't jump rope. And jump roping alone, the coordination of how to jump rope. I mean, start anywhere. Just get a jump rope from the dollar store and just start jump
There you go.
roping. Jump rope to music, put a little routine together. But jump roping,
Yeah.
riding a bike.
Yes.
In 5th grade, we take a field trip down to the Star of India, which is on a boat. And I had a 5th grader privately in tears pull me aside at recess, scared to go because he couldn't swim. And I had to rephrase this, like, honey, we're not swimming, we'll just be on the boat. But he was so scared to go on a boat in water.
Yeah.
And I was just, my first thought was, let's get you some swim lessons. We got this. This is a survival skill.
Survival
And a
skill.
gross motor skill, there's so much therapy with swimming. A friend of mine has a son with cerebral palsy. And between horseback riding and swimming,
Yeah.
his motion and movement and strength in his legs, he went from using a walker in kindergarten, he's now in 4th grade, and he doesn't even bring his walker to school anymore. His muscle movement and his muscle memory is so strong now that he can walk a
Yeah.
good distance without having to hold on to something. but it was through swim, horseback riding. But the power of these gross motor skills, I think, is kids need to know how to ride a bike, know how to swim, know how to jump a rope. These very little skills that are big deals.
And I think so we need to just get kids exposed to all the things, right? I think that's kind of what I'm hearing. Like the broader the spectrum activities that our kids are exposed to, first of all, the more we'll know which ones they like. You know, like it's our job as parents to make sure our kids are exposed to a whole bunch of stuff, then find the thing that they get, and then they can focus on that. Ride a bicycle, jump rope, play some football, play some basketball, play baseball, catch a ball, you know, run a place, skip. You know, like just get them exposed to all of the activities, and that will help their brain actually function better. Like there's studies after studies that show that kids that do a broad amount of activities outside are more able to succeed in school. Okay, Shawn.
Well, can I say? Well, I have just to kind of go back to a personal story. I'm in season right now with our flag football team, and I'll share. I won't share any names, but I'll share a conversation that I had with a parent just this last Thursday. I was out in practice, finishing practice, and he was just there, and his son was no longer there, and I'm like, uh-oh, what happened? What's going on? But he wanted to share with me that his son transitioning to the high school as a young kid didn't play any sports up until high school, and then by joining the actual flag football program, he almost was in tears. I'm starting to get in tears a little bit, but he just shared with me that his son is playing an actual sport, and he comes home every day and he's watching YouTube videos on how to become a better athlete. He's asking, they're having dad and son like throwing footballs in the backyard. They're having moments where they're able to bond. He's rushing to get to school every day. He's doing well academically, and just those stories and those examples, it's so much bigger than just stop doing something and do this, but it changes lives, and it changes families, not just individuals. So that's kind of my personal story. I mean, that was, kind of almost brought me to tears. But the parent, he was so proud that his son was able to just take that leap of faith and say, I want to try that. I've never tried it before, and it was scary. He had to choose courage to try out, and it's scary to try something new. But the benefits on the back end have been so tremendous. So he just was sharing that story to me and how much it's impacted their family. So that kind of sums up the purpose and why this is so important, and we have to be so intentional to save our youth, save our kids, get them outdoors.
I don't know if there's anything else to say. Thank you guys both so much for being here. Thank you for the stories. I think we've covered a lot.
It's been great.
And hopefully anybody that is able to kind of peek in and watch this conversation will learn a little bit. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.